Okay, Google Earth Basics. I'm Jim Simpson. All we're going to do now is spend a little bit of time going over the basics. I'll show you how to navigate in Google Earth, show you how to create points and line segments. We'll take a look at screen overlays, and we'll take a look at generating polygons, and I'll show you how to modify the attributes of all of those things. If you don't already have Google Earth installed, go ahead and get that installed and get it fired up. If you have any trouble, there's a training on how to do that, so go ahead and take a look at that. So this is a crime scene that I'm working on, and these points here are probably the most frequent thing that you see in Google Earth, and creating them is pretty straightforward. You're going to come up here to the toolbar. When I click on that, it creates a new point. The yellow box around it tells me that I can move it. I can modify its attributes over here. You'll see that there's a place for the name, and that represents its title. So if I change that, you'll notice that it's changed over here. Now that's a little bit small. It's hard to read, so I'm going to change the size of that label to something larger. I can do the same with the icon if I like, and I can change the color of both of those things. So I can change that to red and this to green. I can also change the icon itself by clicking here, and Google Earth will present me with a series of icons that you can choose from. You can also use custom icons, but I'm going to save that for the next training. But you can change it to just about anything that you like. When you create an icon or a place mark, you'll see it represented on the map, but also in your place marks over here in the place mark tab. You can see that it's useful to sort of organize these under folders if you have a bunch of cases. As I do, the first thing that I'll do is create a folder for it. I do that by going to the Add menu and create folder, and then title it whatever you like. And when you do that, it will create a folder. You can then drag place marks or line segments or whatever it is underneath that folder in sort of a hierarchical fashion. You can choose whether or not you can see the item by clicking it or unclicking it and toggle its visibility. You can delete the items simply by selecting it and hitting the delete key. The sort of hierarchical nature of it, the ability to organize in that way, is really helpful when you've got a whole bunch of things going on and you start to have a little bit of a clutter going on. One of the things that I really like to use Google Earth for is plotting the locations of witnesses to a crime, so I know exactly where everyone was standing and what their vantage point would have been. But sometimes you get a lot of people or you get a lot of items in a location, and you need to be discussing or looking at different elements, and so it's helpful just to click the folder and take those off the screen so that you can work on other things. Line segments really are created in a very similar way. So this would be an example of a line segment here, and I'll use it most often to show flight paths or where a suspect came from or where he was going as he ran away, things of that nature. Creating them is pretty simple. You're going to come up here and select the line tool. When you do that, your icon will change, your cursor will change, and you can start selecting points to create your line segment. You can modify the end of that line by hovering it over, waiting for your mouse icon to change. When it changes, you can come in and manipulate it. And you can manipulate the attributes of this in the same way that you did with the place marks. I can come in here and I can change color to something else. I can alter the opacity. I can change the thickness of the line, things of that nature. Polygons are basically just line segments that are connected together, and you create those by selecting this tab up here, the polygon tab. And when you do that, I can, the same way I did a line segment, start selecting points and create a three-dimensional shape. You can see down here I've used that to sort of give some depth to the buildings and things like that. Obviously, I can change the properties here the same way that I did everything else. I can change the color, the line color, the line thickness. I can also change its depth, and to do that I'm going to want to come into the altitude tab and select relative to ground, and then that will allow me to raise it up above the surface of the Earth, and then by clicking extend sides to ground, now my polygon has some depth. And again, sort of a nice way of adding some depth to your buildings and things like that. It's also really helpful in creating or marking territories, such as gang territories, things of that nature. In addition to those items, I can also add overlays, image overlays, which is what this compass rose is. To create an image overlay, you're just going to come up and select this tab, and you'll see the properties dialog open again, and all you need to do is really select an image by navigating somewhere and finding something that you want to use. When you select the image, it should appear there, but that one is not. Let's try something else. It is not showing up, and okay, it's not showing up because I need to go to the altitude tab, and I have other screen overlays sitting here, and so you have to change the draw order to something greater than the other overlays, so something to that effect. You usually won't have to do that because usually you'll just have one overlay. I have, you'll notice my scene is curiously absent of any other traffic, and that's not because when Google Earth or Google shot the image there was no traffic that day. It's because I've added my own overlays there to clean out the scene. So anyway, I had to change the draw order on that. But once I've done that, or it's created, you can resize it and modify it. I'll cover overlays in a little more detail in the following series, but that should give you sort of a basic idea of how those things are used. I can also use three-dimensional models, and I'm not going to get into how to do that in this one. I'll save that for the next series, but these models, you can create some yourself, like simple buildings and things like that, and you can also download them from one of a bunch of different repositories that are online for that. Like, obviously I didn't create the stoplights and things like that. I didn't create the vehicles, although I textured some of them, but you can import them and drop them down into your scene and use them to help illustrate better how your crime scene appeared. So after I've got my points or polygons or line segments or whatever it is created, if I need to modify any of those, in other words, if I need to get that property window back, all I'm going to do is go to my line, and if I select it on the Places panel, if I right-click it, down at the bottom will be Properties, and when I select that, I'll get back that yellow box, which will allow me to move it, and I can come in and modify the properties and things like that. So in addition to these up here, probably the only other tool up here that I use is this ruler tool, and that'll just allow you to take sort of simple measurements. Right here, it's set to feet, but you can easily set it to miles or any other parameter. But I find myself using that quite a bit just to get an idea of the distances, or when witnesses give distances and things like that, to be able to look that up. Probably one of the most useful features of Google Earth is the street view, the ability to come in and look at the scene the way it existed when the Google car went through. To do that, you need to make sure that in your options navigation panel, this is selected, this automatically tilt and enter ground level view. As long as that is selected, when you scroll in or you zoom in, as you get close, Google Earth will bring you right down into the scene. And you can actually, just by using the mouse, you can look around, you can navigate. This is really great, for getting a sense for what your crime scene looked like. Obviously, you should take the time at some point to go out and see your crime scene for yourself, but a lot of times you just need to know, where a particular feature was or what something looked like, and I find myself doing this in almost all cases. You can also turn this into an exhibit pretty easily too, and I've done that quite a bit, just to get an exterior look. If I want to save this, I'm just going to do Control-Alt-S, and it'll ask me for a location to save that image, and then it'll save the screenshot as an image, and I can use that later on as an exhibit. So those are the major features of Google Earth. It probably is worth spending just a little bit of time talking about how to navigate, and you probably notice that I get around here pretty easily, and it really is, once you get the hang of it, pretty easy to move around your scenes. the most common way to move, obviously, is just sort of clicking and left clicking and dragging the satellite imagery around. Zooming in and out is done by the scroll wheel, and just by scrolling in or out, it will allow you to move closer or farther from the ground level. You can also cant and come at it at different angles. The way you do this is by using the middle mouse button. The middle mouse button, a lot of people I find don't even realize they have a middle mouse button, but on most mouses it's the scroll wheel, and if you press down on the scroll wheel, it will act as your middle mouse button, and you can come in and look at your scene in different angles. If at any time you want to reorient yourself to the top north view, you can just hit the R key, and that'll automatically reorient you. You can, of course, navigate by clicking on any of your place marks in the Places panel, and when you click on those, it will take you to that particular location. Another way that you can move around or get to places is through the search panel, which is really quite helpful. Now, obviously, you can type in a location or an address, and when you hit enter, it'll take you there. You can also be a little less specific. You can do an intersection, so we'll get you there. Another thing that you can do, which I use all the time, is you can search by way of business. And when you do that, it will give you the location of basically all matching businesses within that general area, and you can navigate to any one of them by clicking them over here in the side panel. You can also search by GPS location, and that will be real helpful if you have CHP cases. A lot of times in their field arrest data sheets, they'll list the arrest site or something by GPS coordinate, so you can plug that in there and it'll bring you to that location. And then obviously if you're dealing with cell tower records and things like that, typing in the GPS coordinates are quite helpful. So the last thing that I'll cover is just sort of, okay, so we've created a bunch of place marks and we've got our scene set up, so how do we save that? The most common way is to come up to the file menu and save my places. What that will do is it'll save everything that's in your places panel here, and which is important. If you don't save it and you close Google Earth down, those places won't be there when you start it up. So you need to make sure you do that. Another way, and the way that I prefer, is to create a folder on your hard drive to save your places in. So anytime I have a new case, one of the first things that I do will be to create my Google Earth folder. And inside that folder, well, I have a lot of stuff in here, but I will store the actual KMZ file in there, which is the Google Earth file. And that way it's always preserved, but also sometimes you may want to have your detective or something look at the way you've drawn things up. You can email these, and as long as they have Google Earth, they can download it and open it up and take a look. So to do that, anyway, all you're going to do is you're going to come to your place mark or your folder containing all your place marks for that particular case, and if you right-click it, you can come down and save place as, and it will prompt you for the location that you want to save it, and it'll save it as a KMZ file. So those are pretty much the basics, and in the next series I'll get a little more in depth. We'll talk about how to create some of these 3D models, or how to import them anyway, and deal with sort of creating complicated line segments and using custom icons and things like that. But for now, hopefully that's enough to get you off and running, and thanks for watching.